I never know when we're live.
We are live now.
Thank you. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lucy Robbins Wells Library Board of Trustee meeting for June, wishful thinking, for January 10th. Happy New Year, everyone. We'll get back into the cold New Year season as that goes through. I'm going to turn the meeting over right now to Elizabeth Rogers, our secretary, to do a roll call.
Andy Brecker.
Here.
Anna Eddy.
Here.
Laurel Goodgen.
She was on the other call. She might be having problems signing up on this one.
No, she's here. Just use space bar, Laurel.
Yeah, I see her. Thank you. Lisa Jones.
Here.
Pauline Kruk.
Here.
Iris Larson. No. Leanne Mankey.
Here.
Maureen O'Connor Lyons.
Here.
And we said Neil Ryan is not here, correct?
Correct.
Christine Shushin.
Here.
Diane Stam.
Here.
Diane told me Lisa Masson will not be in attendance. Karen Benner.
Here.
Rowell. Sorry, I see Sheila, but I didn't hear her. And David Nagel.
Here.
And Iris has joined us as well.
Okay. Welcome, Iris.
That concludes the roll.
Thank you very much. So sadly, we all know that Judy Eigelski, a longtime member of our board, passed away last month. So she was not on the roll call. She very nicely recognized us for donations. And I know I saw several people at the wake. So again, we miss her and her contribution. She was a very long time member of our board. And, you know, before she started to get sick, she did a lot, but she was always a big supporter of Lucy. So we will miss her, but we'll move on as that goes through, right? The circle of life. Public participation. Is there anyone out there, James, for public participation who might want to join?
Unless Fiona would like to say anything.
Nope, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, there's also public participation at the end, so no worries. We'll circle back around. Okay, then I will move on to Town Council Liaison. Dave Nagel, do you have anything you'd like to share at this time?
Council hasn't met for a month. We canceled a meeting, the second one in December. There wasn't anything on the previous meeting that was of note at this point to mention in relationship to the library. And I know that Diana sent something out concerning a meeting that she had with Mayor Dabuno and myself to you, details about that. If Diane wishes to talk about that during your meeting, that is up to her, but I'll leave that to her. I have nothing else at the time being.
Do you know if that will be on the agenda for tomorrow's meeting?
Good question. Let me check here. I get an agenda in advance. I don't see it here.
Okay. Fair enough.
No, I don't see it here.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on. If no one has any questions for Dave. Okay, good. We'll move on to the secretary's report. Iris. Iris, are you on mute?
I have no report.
Thank you. Okay, from there, I will move on to the review and an approval of the minutes from last month. Does anybody have any comments, corrections?
I do, Diane. Laurel?
Yes, go ahead, Laurel.
Chris Minor keeps being posted as absent. He's no longer a liaison, I believe, to the library board since he's no longer on the council.
Correct.
So if that could be corrected. And then on page 6, at the bottom of the page, Lisa, under communications, Friends should be capitalized. Like Lisa Jones is meeting with the Friends. I think they should be capitalized. And on the final page, page 7, Miss Porter's school should not only be capitalized, but Porter's is not is a possessive, so it's not a plural. And the very last line in that section, Republican should be capitalized. And singular.
Anna, I have some corrections also. And can I also ask if everybody could mute? I'm hearing background noise, TV noise, I don't know. So I also have some corrections on page 6. The Anna focus on thanking sponsors and donators. That should say donors.
Right, I missed that.
And so Anna focused on thanking sponsors and donators for their support on Giving Tuesday. Somewhere I get it. You can start off the sentence. On Giving Tuesday, Anna focused on thanking the donors, the sponsors and the donors. And then I wouldn't start off a sentence which has worked out well. This approach has worked out well. And let's see, and it says 9 other older sponsors. It's actually 9 other former sponsors. And Tilcon is spelt without the E. It's Tilcon. And that's the end of my corrections.
Anyone else?
Diane, am I able to jump in here or should I wait
Sure.
until the end? I just wanted to go back. I'm trying to find what page it was on. It was about the discussion about me from last meeting. I actually did not work at Kingswood, Oxford. Just currently working at Miss Porter's school.
Okay, we should probably, how should we handle that? Elizabeth, if you can make a note or just strike that out. Take the used to
can do
work
that.
for Kingswood, Oxford.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, anything else? I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
It's Anna, so moved.
May I have a second?
This is Leanne, I'll second.
Thank you. And thank you both for stating your names. That's very helpful. Okay. So I believe I have to ask for a vote on that, right? All those in favor of accepting accepting the minutes as amended, say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstain? Carries forward unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next up is the activity calendar. And as many of you know, we started a little bit earlier this evening with our 5K race meetings. We are going to have our 5K race in May this year. Fingers crossed that everything is happy and healthy in the state of Connecticut and the rest of the world as we go through from that end. So those certainly have picked up. Anna has done a wonderful job with the registration. We've got a few items that we're going to research for the 5K races that goes through, but that is definitely something that started to kick off. The library budget will be having a report on the budget. The town goes through and sets that up as it goes through. We'll have the investment committee quarterly report. And Laurel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we start to distribute the evals for the library director.
I don't remember the exact month. We were working so hard on it last year. Maybe Lisa remembers.
Okay, she's not on tonight.
Oh,
So we'll,
no, not Lisa Maston, excuse
oh,
me.
sorry, Lisa Jones.
Lisa Jones. I've got to correct that.
I don't recollect exactly when we started, but I believe it was actually prior to this. I think it was in December. So a year ago, December. I can check my notes though, and I will send an email out. That was going to be one of my questions for tonight, is when do we start the process? And I believe that we wanted to actually conclude the process somewhere in the April or May timeframe. So we wanted to have the entire process completed and presented to Lisa Maston by you, Diane, in the May timeframe, I believe is what we were thinking. It was also dependent on Keith Chapman's timing. So we might need to check in with Lisa again too on that. I'll send her a quick email knowing that she's out for the next few days.
All right, very good. Thank you. So that's what I have under activities for the month of January in terms of what we're setting up to do or come across. All right. Treasurer's report, Leanne Mankey.
Okay, I sent out the treasurer's report regarding period ending December 31st for the month. We're in pretty good shape. We didn't have a huge amount of donations, though one sponsor did come in since then. As I mentioned at the race meeting, we got $500 in December from Kingston. I have since picked up a $3,000 check today from our largest sponsor, Tilcon. So the monies are starting to come in after all of the legwork that Anna put in on Giving Tuesday. So I appreciate that. We also, as you can see from the report, we have an ending balance in December 31 in the general checking account, which is unrestricted funds, of $27,359.48. We did start paying for the subscription for the tablets. Karen worked very hard to resolve that back and forth mess with the new tablets that weren't working properly, et cetera. So now I guess they're out and about. So we had to catch up with some of the subscriptions. So now we should be going monthly, keeping in mind that subscription cost, we have a grant that should cover a little over a year, but then we'll have to work that into our own budget.
And are those, I'm sorry, Leanne, are those tablets or are those the Wi-Fi?
It's the subscription for the tablets.
Okay.
Through Sprint. They call themselves something different now, but the bill comes from Sprint.
Okay.
Money market in Kingston, which is also unrestricted funds, is at $106,977.13. Dean is still watching the market, playing around, looking at things to see where we should go with that. It's not earning very much at all, obviously, in the money market, but there's a lot of volatility in the market and we have a lot of our funds already invested in there. So currently that's where those monies sit. They are accessible. The Santander money market for the restricted funds balance is $24,670.23. Since the end of January, we have received a substantial amount of contributions, a little over $2,500 in memorial funds, which are primarily for Judy. She named us in the obituary, they named us in the obituary, the family as the recipient. We have $1,000 that came in from, the first name escapes me, Burrell. It's a charitable trust. Yes, Janice. It's a charitable donation and they don't want it to go being restricted under memorial. They want it to be best used by the library as we see fit. So that will go into unrestricted funds, but it was basically a memorial donation. So I mean, people are definitely keeping us in mind and we appreciate it. I have prepared the 1099s for the accountant to actually file with the IRS. I gave them to them last week. I'm just waiting for the 1099s to come back so I can mail them out to our subcontractors. That'll be done probably in the next couple of weeks. I'll have those and we'll get them out before the end of January per guidelines from the IRS. We also received a check, an additional $4,535.60 from the Polino Fund. That was the balance. We had gotten initial contribution under a bequest, and they were waiting to settle the estate. We've gotten a second payment, and there is still a third payment that is due that will be coming to us. So again, but those are restricted funds under the Polino Book Fund. So we have, as I said, people are keeping us in mind, whether it be for memorial donations or general contributions. The Kingston restricted versus unrestricted funds is also reported. We are in really good shape at the end of the year. Obviously, the market fluctuates, and I do have some information when it gets to investments, as Neil isn't here.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have questions for Leanne?
It's Anna. To go back to the Polino Book Fund, so it looks like, I don't know, is it close to $22,000, $23,000 total? And when you say book fund, were they specific on what kinds of books, like garden books, golf books, or it doesn't
No,
matter?
it's called the Polino Book Fund, but it's basically to work with or contribute to the collection. So I think there's a broad interpretation of what could be brought into the library. And this way, this is something initially, I mean, it had about $2,000 in it. Now the library will have substantial funds to work with. And this is one thing that I have asked that a subcommittee get together, because we have a lot of restricted funds, to be perfectly honest, that are just sitting and languishing because they're not being utilized. A lot of it is because, the staff purchases, and I don't think they're aware of the funding that's available. And Lisa and Karen and I have been doing a great deal of talking about that. So this way, and we've had some shifts with Jeanette, she was handling all the purchases, and then she went to, working part-time, and now she's gone, and people have been in and out. I think we need to go over the parameters of these various funds so that we're utilizing them properly. I mean, we have a large book fund. We have a couple of funds that have names on them that these are before my time, and I don't know if there are parameters on them. I have no documents on them.
Can you provide the members of the board a list, and maybe collectively we can figure out some of that? And I would be curious.
I'm in the process of putting together the December 31st, and I have to close some other organizations' books before I do this, but I've got December 31. I will compile the reports of all the various restricted funds, and then we can all put our thinking caps on. That I can put out. I have been providing it to the executive committee and Lisa and Karen, but that can go out. I usually do it quarterly. So I will get a quarter report out to everyone about where we stand on all the funds.
That would be nice. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Leanne? I don't see any. I almost have everybody up on my screen, but I don't have everyone. So speak up if you have a question. No, great, thank you. So Lisa Maston was not able to join us this evening, so I'm going to go to Karen Benner for, I'll call it the combined library director and assistant director's report. Karen, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Excuse me. The library operations have not changed a whole lot since last month. One of the differences is, though, if you remember correctly, that we had just started opening the building for some small programming upstairs in the children's department. And we're considering doing a few of the book discussion groups in the library. We never really got that far, excuse me, just given the COVID rate. So I think we had one in-person program and then we ceased. We had opened the study rooms as well. We've closed those. And then we have removed some seating. The computers remain the same. Everything else is pretty well the same as it was with those few exceptions. We're continuing to deal with, COVID-related issues with staffing. We've had a couple of staff members who have had infections. We really are dealing more with people who either have children who have been exposed or have gotten sick, or, just kind of the same thing that we've been dealing with all along, but probably a little bit more so. So it's really, we're sort of, it's a day by day thing as to, who's going to be in and what kind of coverage, excuse me, we're going to need. And with that, we had talked about a few of the positions that were open last month. So we did fill the digital services librarian position. Michelle Patnode, who was a circulation sub for us, filled that position. She started at the end of December. So I'm working pretty closely with her over the next few months in her new job responsibilities. We also have our circulation supervisor, Katie Cornell, will begin her maternity leave at the end of February. That's a key position there as she supervises the circulation desk. So we're in the process of, training other staff to step in. So people will be picking up some of her duties. We're also cross-training some of our substitutes who work in the library, thinking that it will give us a little bit more flexibility and, give them the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the library. Now that we're open, longer days on Saturdays and Sundays, we're in this season where people get sick and need to call out and we need to have subs. So we're in the process of doing that. We have a new software program for museum passes as well as for our calendar. The museum pass program is up and running. The calendar one is still in testing, but we should have it ready by the end of the month. So that will be really nice to get sort of behind us, because that's been a worry. We've had this one software system for the past 8 or 9 years, and we knew it was going away at the end of last year, and we kind of were really hunting around for the right thing. So that's worked out well. And we've actually, the museum pass software is a lot less expensive than what we had been initially had, so that's good. And then the hotspots that we kept talking about, meeting after meeting after meeting, are finally available, as Leanne mentioned. So we haven't done a big push yet. We kind of did this soft rollout this week, and we'll start doing a lot of publicity early next week for those. And then just the last is that the admin team, we put the final touches on the 22-23 fiscal budget. We submitted it to finance on January 5th, I think. There were no major changes. I think Maureen is going to talk about that a little bit later when she presents her budget report. And I think that is it for me. Thank you.
May I ask Karen a question?
Go ahead, Laurel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Karen, what are the new assets to the program software that you got that are different from what you've had in the past?
With the museum passes, it's pretty similar. I don't think there's anything necessarily additional. we were able to get something through our Library Connection, our
Right.
consortium. So that really, really cut down the cost. But with the calendar program that's not up and running yet,
Right.
patrons will be able to sign up remotely.
Oh,
So
excellent.
yeah, I think that's one of the biggest
Will they
things
get
that-
reminders too?
Yes, we can set
Oh,
reminders.
excellent.
Yeah. So
Very
we're
good.
looking forward to that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Karen? No? Good job, Karen. Good not to have a lot of questions, right? Especially when you're losing your voice. So appreciate your attendance. Next report is Friends of the Library with Sheila.
I think I'm not on mute.
No, you're
You can hear-
good. We can hear you.
Yep. Okay. We've been trying to think of ways that we can continue to sell some of these books and make a little money. We have added in the past couple of weeks, we've added a couple more carts to sell upstairs. Lisa has let us put carts in the entranceway, kind of, where the donation buckets used to be. So we'll see if we can get some more sales going that way. I'm going to try to do it a little bit in conjunction with the Friends Corner, see if we can get some themes and that sort of thing going. There's going to be an I Love Lucy in February theme that Nora's working on. We'd like to plan some outside sales, but weather is so iffy these days, and the COVID situation is a little difficult to make plans for. So we continue to look forward to ways we can do that.
Sheila, when is the next donation event for the Friends, when we can donate books?
We're accepting donations. All you have to do is call. We're accepting.
okay.
Just call and tell the Michelle that you're bringing some stuff in. They've been accepting.
Okay, so
Okay,
call
thank you.
the main number of the library and say that you have a donation that you'd like to drop off, and they'll tell you.
Mhm.
I take it they're timing it for when the Friends folks are in the library actually able to
Right.
process those books?
Yep.
Okay. So it's still not a free-for-all where you can come in and just drop them off, but you are accepting them on any day
Mhm.
if you can call ahead and set that up.
Yes.
Great.
And we've
Thank
been
you.
getting a lot. We have been getting a lot of donations too.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions for Sheila?
Mhm.
No? Okay, then I will move on to some committee reports. Next up is the budget report with Maureen Lyons. Maureen?
Hi, everybody. Hopefully I sent an email with highlights, and essentially, as over the many years, we were asked to come in with a 0% increase. And it's kind of a rob Peter to pay Paul situation. That's how my non-budget mind is looking at it. But because of retirements and decreases in full-time salaries due to personnel changes, for instance, in the salary area, and decreases in longevity with retirement, etc., everything seemed to have balanced out. So we had increases, we had decreases, but it worked out to basically that 0% increase. You lose one person and you hire another one, but they're not coming in at the same salary, for instance, that the 25-year, person had, or 30-year person. So most of the movement with the budget was because of salaries, and a lot of that is also dictated by the union contract, so out of our control. There were some areas where, there were increases because of contractual issues and with maintenance. But again, for instance, the consortium was able to negotiate some things. So again, it all came out in the wash. So it was the 0%. We didn't get anything extra, but we didn't really lose anything. If I'm, interpreting it correctly. And if, Karen, do you have any of the nuances that you would want to discuss? I mean, I think there's a detailed spreadsheet that you all can look at.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It was really personnel, contractual increases, offset by people who left who were earning more, and people are coming in at a lower rate. I will say there was a 2% raise authorized for part-time people as well, so that contributed a little bit. But everything else, all the non-budget accounts, there were not any increases. And kind of like Maureen said, if there was a little increase someplace, it was a decrease someplace else. Leanne, did you have a question?
I just want to note that we're still on with Sunday in the next year's budget, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Leanne. That was one of my questions. My other question, Andy, I'll get to you in a moment. I know that we have some unfunded positions. Is that still the case?
Yes. To this point, yes.
So how does that work in the budget process as we go forward? They're not allowing it?
So we will have a meeting with the town manager, kind of like we do every year. I'm going to say, I believe we would need to have a discussion probably with him before that, probably, well, obviously Lisa, maybe somebody from the board, and, kind of make our case for it. I don't believe that has happened yet, simply because we really just turned in, this budget, and, as you know, Lisa's away for a few days. So I think we would have to approach it that way, but the budget went in with those positions unfunded.
All right. So we're still down some head count.
Yes.
Based on, I can't remember, was it the middle of last year or the beginning of last year that we were down that head count?
Beginning.
Okay. So it's a 0% increase, but we are still overall down in our total staffing head count.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Karen, when you have that discussion with Keith, is it to plead to fill the positions? Is it to make sure that the positions are still in existence but unfunded? Because there's always that possibility that he can just say eliminate them.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how to answer your question, because Lisa and I haven't had like an extensive conversation about it. I mean, obviously we would love to have those positions, and absolutely do not want to see those go away. And that's a really important thing, that distinction that you're making too. I mean, it's one thing to have them in there unfunded, but as we know, sometimes things can, something can be unfunded for a while, and then, it kind of goes away. So we just haven't gotten that far, Maureen. I'm not exactly sure what, Lisa is thinking in terms of a conversation and what she's going to ask. I know that there's, there'll be a discussion about it. But I will have her get back to you on that, or to all of you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Andy had his hand up. I'm going to ask first if he has questions that we didn't touch on. Andy?
Yes, Karen, ignoring personnel for the moment, are there any things that you were looking forward to funding or getting more funding for that are not in the budget? Or said another way, are there things that ended up being unfunded or underfunded?
I think it's more, I don't think I think our mindset was more of maintaining. So no, not off the top of my head. I mean, we did briefly talk about a capital improvement item that we decided to put off, until next year. But basically, the only thing that I can think of that we are looking to do is get a new print management system in the library. That was something that we talked about. And, we didn't put anything in for that. So I'm
But
not
in
sure if I
terms
answered.
of, in terms of collection size, media, programs that cost money to put on, anything that you guys have been wanting to pursue that you've essentially been told, shut it down?
Not really in our discussions of this year. And I think that's just simply because we were coming from the standpoint of, we were requested to have a 0% increase. So that's how we approached it. The programming piece right now isn't as much of an issue for us because we're not doing the in-person programming. There is an expense related to the virtual programming, but Michelle Royer has done such a fantastic job collaborating with other libraries that a lot of the programming that we're putting out right now are collaboration efforts and really either not costing us anything or costing us very little. So from that standpoint, no, not really, Andy.
Okay, I mean, listen, I understand what's going on, and Counselor Nagel is here and he knows what's going on. But you have so many years, year after year after year after year of let's just keep the boat sailing around the globe, that you put such a damper on innovation. And we know you folks want to do more and you want to do better. And you want to provide the citizens of Newington with greater services. And we're just stuck in this, well, we can't raise taxes, so we're just going to live with what we have. So, okay, I can understand. I mean, you're not in a position to really speak, but I can, so I have.
No, that's fine. And I just to comment on what you're saying, one of the things that really plays into that and contributes to that is the fact that, we are understaffed. So, we're all stretched pretty thin right now too. So that, even if we could do some things, it would really take some creative work to get those, to be able to do it too. I see both Leanne and Anna have their hands up.
Leanne, you can go ahead.
I was just wondering, for those who aren't aware, what are the unstaffed positions?
So there is a full-time librarian position in our collection management department that is a cataloger. So what's happened is the person who is the department head for collection management, Dorothy Russell, who is managing everything in that back office, all the materials that come in, buying a lot for the collection, is also having to catalog. So we have people, part-time people who don't necessarily have a background in that, pitching in and doing some cataloging. So the second position is the full-time teen librarian position. And there's a real impact there. We have a part-time person in teen services. She's a 19-hour-a-week person. She's doing a great job, but you can't do in 19 hours what, it's a half a position now. One of the things we did a little bit of rearranging, and the individual who used to be the full-time teen librarian, Bailey Francis, she's a department head in the children's department. She's overseeing that position, and we're trying to get some, dedicate a few more resources to teen services, but it's hard.
Can I ask if I was aware what the positions were, but I know that there are some folks who weren't sure of what exactly the positions were. I think just from my perception, from the outside looking in, it seems like perhaps these are things that, assuming that COVID kind of goes away here, the need for these services are going to increase tenfold. And we already have our staff stretched very, very thin. So not only would I advocate for not removing them as being unfunded, I would advocate that perhaps they consider funding them. We may not fill them right now, but we fund them. Just my 2 cents.
That would be going in the right direction for sure.
Anna, you had a question?
Yeah, well, two things. First, I want to commend Maureen for her report. I thought it was well stated. I liked the breakdown. It was very easy to follow, and it made a lot of sense to my muddled brain, which doesn't take numbers in very well.
That's, excuse me, Anna, thank you. That's Lisa's words.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you both.
Well,
And Andy made a comment about the program, the funding for programming, but to my recollection, isn't it the Friends group that funds a lot of the adult and children programs?
They do.
So we,
Yeah.
so we.
But yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't recall, maybe at one time there was money there for programming within the town budget, but I think over the years it has slowly evolved and crept over to be under the umbrella of donations from the Friends to cover those costs.
And the
we do
board.
have programming money from the town budget.
Oh, we
It's
do.
yes, but it's nowhere, it's nowhere near what the Friends do or what the board does, but we do have an allocation from the town. We still do get that for children, teen, and adult programming.
Fiona is almost an official board member, so I'm going to treat her like one. She's days away. Fiona, you had some questions if you want to come off mute and ask those, and then Laurel, I'll go up to you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you for the information. I just wanted to also uplift what the other board members are saying about funding. I work with teenagers. I think that COVID has had a really enormous effect on them. And, I think that funding a teen librarian full-time position, I don't doubt that would be a very busy job for a full-time teen services librarian, especially, like in a post-COVID world when the kids would really be able to be coming back to the library after school, weekend programming. I think that they're really going to be looking for that. Just again, based on I work with high school students, and I see a lot of them are really ready to log off their computers at the end of the day. And I also, I guess, so I just wanted to uplift those comments, but also, Karen, I had a question about, so the positions that are unfunded currently, have those been put off because of COVID? Do you think that those would have been filled if we weren't sort of in this time where maybe you don't need as much in-person support? Or is that something that you think would be kind of like that no matter what?
I'm not sure. It's
Okay.
a good question. I'm not sure because it all happened sort of, it sort of coincided. Yeah. I think it's possible that regardless of COVID, it could be. And I appreciate your comments about the teen position. I was a teen librarian, so my heart is there, and I definitely feel like we see it, that the teens we tried to do some online programming. They're not interested. So what really has worked for them and for us are these grab and go kits that seem to work for adults and children, and that right now that's what's working the best for them. But I agree with you. Yeah, it would be great to have that position.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laurel, did you have a comment? or
Yes,
question?
I just wanted to say how much I appreciated Maureen and Lisa Maston's comments on the budget, the information we were provided. It's the most information I've received since I've been on the board about the budget, and I truly appreciated it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. This is Diane, and I had one comment about the budget and the teen librarian, and that is that if you look through the town, where are the resources for the teens? I think if you want to play basketball, you can go to Parks and Rec, but the teen department, the teen center that they used to have
right.
pre-renovation at the town hall is gone. The teen area that we have in our library is the size of a generous master bedroom. It's really, really tight. And I think that this is an area that really should be looked into. As you said, the grab and go kits are something that's coming out from that end, but I would, and Dave, I know that you're always listening to us, but when it comes to personnel and staffing, I believe many of the empty positions and the way they fell due to some attrition in the library. Somebody would retire, somebody else would step up to that position, which left the other position open. For instance, Bailey, she was the teen librarian. Now she's the head of children's, which left us kind of scrambling and moving around. But with some of the budget cuts through attrition, I don't know how purposeful the position being unfunded was, as opposed to the combination of what was happening with our staff and what was happening with budgets overall. So again, I don't know where in town the teen resources are. Certainly not free resources. Maybe they're signing up for the basketball, maybe they're signing up for some of the sports leagues and stuff, and that's great. But where are the other resources for the teens in our town? I don't know. So just a thought for me on that part. And we've gotten off a little bit from budgeting, but is there anyone else that has a question or a comment regarding budgeting? Leanne, I see your hand up.
Just a question regarding these fundings. If we're going to go back and speak to Keith and in turn the town council for adding these positions back in potentially, whether they are kept as unfunded or whether we ask to be funded. I'm assuming, Karen, that you have the numbers available to provide to Keith what we're talking in terms of dollars and cents, what that would increase. That might be the best part to go in with the initial discussion is to have the dollars right there.
Definitely.
Know me, I'm a numbers girl.
No,
So I
definitely.
like to have them right there, right in front of me when I'm talking. So.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Diane,
Yes, go ahead, Maureen.
Just two brief comments. You mentioned the size of the teen area. This is something that we can address when we're meeting with Lisa Berger, I think, as part of our, tweaking our facilities document. And I just want to make one comment, and it may be totally off the wall. We do such a wonderful job in our library. The staff does such a tremendous job of filling in the gaps. And I'm not saying we should stop, but I think from an outsider's viewpoint, a town manager, other people look at the overall picture and they say, well, look, they have these wonderful teen programs or children's programming or adults. And it's almost like without skipping a beat, but they're not looking behind the scenes. And that's something that, again, has to do with our advocacy, not just for expansion, but for personnel expansion. We continue to do a great job with little.
Thank you, Maureen. It's a very good point. Anyone else? No?
Yes.
And yes?
Yes, I've had my hand up just to
Oh,
respond
thank
to
you,
your answer. I usually don't respond because they don't have the answers to it. And it's beyond what I can answer at the moment. Not that I'm not concerned, as you kind of pointed out. I can ask Keith about the questions you had about positions not being filled or not. I don't know if he can go back before he came aboard, but that is something I can ask him about. if you'd like me to.
You know, it is a concern for me and for the board overall, because as Andy mentioned, and as we've seen over time, you know, first we cut back on the collections a little bit, then we cut back someplace else and someplace else, and we continue with the $0. And, you know, inflation is coming. So $0 is really a -5% budget or a -10% budget as it goes through over years. And, you know, we have begun to see that in different areas. You know, these COVID times are crazy. We've got people moving around in staff. We happen to be in a transition place in staff, but I don't want to lose sight of the importance of those positions, even though they're not filled. It's not that they're not filled and we don't need them. It's that they're not filled. Our existing staff is doing an amazing job between the stress of COVID and the stress of not having a fully staffed library and trying to do things outside of the norm. And to think that this might be set up as the next measuring stick for the going forward of 0%, I think does the library and the town a disservice. So
well, I can chat with him about it. I understand where you're coming from. And I didn't mean just a position taken away or not taken away, but what is the status? What has been, are there monies still there and so on? I realize that Lisa Maston probably can gain some of that information or provide it too, but as a board member of the council in your liaison, I can, people are here are talking about some things and they really don't know the answers, and perhaps I can get some straight answers from him if he has any that will clear up some of the fears or misunderstandings if there are any.
Thank you. That would be appreciated. And as Leanne said, we know it helps to have the numbers in the discussion so we know what's going on. But I think overall our concern is the erosion of positions and money that it takes to run a successful library, and the stress that we put on staff to make it happen. And, you know, they're doing it with smiles, which is amazing and greatly appreciated, but it's tough.
I understand that. And obviously if I have a conversation with him, it'll include that. It's not to say that the library, those in the library who are now taking on extra burdens aren't doing a good job. And that's not the point, just to get clarified some of what may be misunderstandings we have, or if the monies are still there, that he plans on saying yes for the budget this year. It just, or if they're being taken away. Never heard about them taken away, but that's just me as an outsider. And obviously I haven't seen this year's budget in terms of recollection.
Right, and we're thrilled that we have the Sunday hours back.
Yeah. And the town manager, I give him kudos. He led the way with that. So with his assistants, that came to fruition. I hadn't heard anything about them going away, and I don't, at least at this point, hear any input about anyone else wanting to be taken away.
Great. Anna, you had your hand up quickly.
Just to piggyback on what Dave said. I mean, back in 2010, when I was president, I mean, that's about the time that the town manager gave directives that the budgets were going to be held to a 0% increase or frozen or whatever word you want to use. And since it started, it hasn't changed. I mean, the only fluctuations in the budget were relative to staff positions, which we had no control over. But other than that, I mean, we've been, the poor staff has been pounding sand because, as others have mentioned, I mean, a subscription is a subscription, but if a subscription increases and we don't have extra funds, that means something else goes away. So over time, there has been an erosion because every year, as the prices of services go up that they have to pay for outside, they've got to come up with the funding from somewhere, and something else gets cut, or they go through the list of online subscriptions that they have, and they cut that, or the ebooks or whatever. So it is an erosion, and it has it is going to make an effect over time. And the poor teens, I feel sorry for them with somebody only there 19 hours a week. How can she service a town, the town teens? It's unfair for the part-time person, I think, to be thrown into that position. But anyway, I'm fairly certain I have a document that shows historically what the budgets have been and the 0% increases. If you'd like, I could dig it up and send it to you, or to have something in front of you. But I can almost guarantee there has not been any increase to the collections part of the budget since at least 2010, maybe 2011, but it's been a long time.
That would be helpful information. Thank you, Anna.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a good thing budget isn't discussed every meeting in such detail, but I think this is the time of year where it's very important for us to get a handle on it and know what's going on. So I appreciate everyone's input. Now I'll try to move on to PEP, Planning, Evaluation, and Policy with Laurel Goodgen. Laurel?
Yes, the PEP committee met and to discuss a draft of revising a policy on what we do when patrons come in and either express concern about materials in the collection or ask that they be withdrawn from the collection. So we did some work on that, and now Lisa Maston and I are going to further work on it, and we will get back to the board eventually with that.
Very good. Any questions for the PEP committee?
Can I?
Yes, go ahead, Fiona.
Was this policy, did this come from like a long time of having to create one, or was it based on like increased instances of patrons coming in and asking about certain parts of the collection?
Well, it was kicked off by a concern that was expressed last summer, and it took our interest back to that policy and to look at it and do some improvement with it. But also, I think in the future, there are going to be more questions. You may already be encountering them in a school environment, because they certainly are happening across the country. So as the country becomes more divided, some of these issues become really hot topics, and it's good to be prepared and know how to respond, and that the staff knows how to respond when somebody comes in with a complaint or a concern.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you. We'll move on to investment. And I think, Leanne, you were going to say a few things here in Neil's absence.
Helpful if I unmuted. Let's see. Neil did send out a report. Basically, it's just if you take the second page of the treasurer's report and Neil's report, you can see that overall, on paper, we did very, very well last year. We stand in a pretty good position. Our total investments with Kingston are $807,626.48 versus the beginning of the year, we were at $739, $118.24. So, I mean, we've done very, very well. Obviously, some of those are donations, contributions that we've put back into the system, but the majority of that are earnings. So I can't say enough about Kingston Wealth Management. They really do very well by us. And Robert Matfus, our accountant, who is affiliated with them. I think we're in really good hands.
Great. Good to know. Any questions on investments that we can throw Leanne's way now that Neil's not here? Help bail her out? No? Okay, good. So next is House Committee, and that would be me, Diane Sam. So I did send out the spreadsheet that we have that shows a list of all of the things from our walkthrough back in November. And as you can see, we are making progress on a lot of the quick hits as that goes through. I'm happy to say that the library finally was weeded in the front and along the sides. It was too late in the year for us to get any of the dead bushes replaced or anything that are along Cedar Street. So hopefully not only that part of the building, but the inside, I know that they're doing some contract management or looking at contracts for the cleaning folks, but we have the list of some of the more detailed cleaning that we'd like to see. And that's the cleaning that happens maybe once a month, once a quarter type thing to go through. They did, as I say, go through a lot of the quick hits. We have pushed a lot of the furniture around and marked them with blue tape. I say we, you know, that's the library staff, not me. We have push some furniture around and put some things into storage. And whenever we get through with this pandemic and are opened up again, we'll have those things coming out. I don't know if any of you have strolled through the library lately when you've been doing the browsing, but there are the new computer areas, tables there, and it makes it much nicer for folks when they come in to see what's happening and what's going on. I'm sorry, to work more securely when you see that area set up. And I saw your hand raised. Did you have a specific
Goodness,
question?
I walked through before somewhere during the holidays and it looks fabulous. It just perked up the area and everything about it is just improved the looks overall. And to have those partitions removed where the computers were before, I mean, what a world of difference. So thank you for the grant money, wherever that came from. I don't remember where it came from, but that was good. That was a good deal.
It certainly was. And it will allow us to let more people have access to those computers through this up and down time. The other setup really didn't allow for much interaction. You know, you could have one or two places open and that was really it. I'm not sure if house is where we should talk about it or facilities. Maybe I'll talk about my meeting with the mayor and Dave during facilities. I'll add that onto Maureen's report if she has that. But overall, the library is looking very good. The town and the staff for the past couple of years, among doing everything else, took the time of lesser traffic to really do a lot of the major renovations or upkeep things, such as replacing carpet tiles. That's a huge undertaking when you have constant folks coming in and out of the library. So they did make the best of that. I think it is looking good. I just wish everybody could get back inside as we go through that. So I don't know if anybody else had questions from a House committee standpoint. Okay, thank you. Next up is facility and site with Maureen.
Hi, things are moving along. We have a meeting scheduled with Library Development Solutions, Lisa Berger, on January 19th. It's a committee meeting, not a full board meeting. And it's to review the original document that they provided to us and to talk about the changes that that are needed to make it a more viable current document. As you know, we've all stated in the past, we have to proactively advocate for the expansion. So we need the most up-to-date tools and guidance that we have when we're going to be making our presentations to the town. So hopefully, you know, before this January 19th meeting, which is like around the corner, you know, we can discuss some of the key points that we want Lisa to be, you know, examining, and to see, you know, how extensive the change would be in this document. That document is the Bible, or will become the Bible. for our expansion. And you touched on the town building committee, and I did put this in my report that you would report on this. At the mayor's request, Diane met with the mayor and Dave Nagel about the proposed town building committee and the library's participation and representation. We had some very specific requests. So Diane can report on the detail. And before she does that, just the communications committee continues to do a great job, and library expansion is always an active agenda item with them. And thank you for that.
Maureen, it's Andy Brecker. What time is that meeting on the 19th?
7 o'clock, I believe. Diane, is it 7? The Zoom meeting.
I believe it's 7.
Yeah. We'll have to, James will have to coordinate that for us.
Which meeting is that for? Sorry, I had power go out.
I don't think we're using the James.
Oh, no.
Zoom.
No, it's
I
not
think we're using the library Zoom or a different Zoom.
Oh,
because it's
okay,
a
so
committee
it's
meeting, it's
technically
not a
not
board
a-
meeting.
Okay.
James,
Never
get
mind,
the night
James, go
off.
back to sleep.
You get the night off, James.
I'm just glad to have power back.
Yeah, I did notice that you dropped off. My agenda dropped off the screen. So as we
Where
went
did
through.
you lose power? Are you home or in the office?
No, I'm at home.
Okay, so in terms of the meeting, the mayor, Beth Del Buono, did reach out to me, and she set up a meeting for me, Dave Nagel, and Sharon Braverman to get together and talk about a permanent building committee plan. And there was so much discussion before and what was coming back and forth. She wanted to share some thoughts that she had. They wanted to bring the whole idea back on the table, and I continued to bring forward our concerns about the fact that the library is not a town department. It is a privately owned building and land. And so how does that shape with a permanent building committee? So as we talked back and forth, I don't know where this will end up, but when we ended up, we had 2 voting members on the building committee as opposed to 1 voting member. And the total number of members, and Dave, you can help me keep straight with these numbers, but the total number of building committee personnel was back at a lower number again. And my caveat had been that should the number of building committee appointees grow, then we would expect the representation for the library to grow as well. I think we ended up with 5.
Yes.
The goal, of course, is always to have an odd number so that you don't get in a lockstep for voting. So if it was 5 committee members, and we would have 2 voting members, and we would also have the ex officio representation of somebody from the library staff. In my mind, it would be the director, the assistant director, or somebody else that they appoint from library staff to help advise and keep things going. And of course, we would always, in the town building areas, also have the fire marshal, the IT department, and things like that involved in some of these discussions, no matter what property it is. So that's, I don't know where it will end up. That's what I was asking Dave. Is it on the agenda? When will it be brought on the agenda? But we should keep our eye open for that so that we know what's happening. But they very nicely reached out to us to say, we know you had concerns before, we're looking to open this up again. What are the concerns? And my overriding concern was representation for the library, because we are a unique organization. Leanne, your hand is up.
My understanding, if I could,
Go ahead, Dave, and then I'll go to Leanne, because you might answer
I'm
the
sorry.
question.
if I could, my understanding is that first we wanted to have the building committee generally, which is an overall one, set, and then go to the library because it's a specific one operating under this new centralized facility meeting, and it would make sense. And the caveats that you've mentioned would apply to the library. And we went over, I believe, extensively the wording of the section involving the library that would be presented, so that it's very clear why, and that there would be 2 members from the library because of the circumstances that we all know about that have been presented over and over again. So there's a clear understanding that the mayor has, and I believe it's even clearer in terms of the kind of wording that will be presented. And since the council has changed also, it needs to be presented to this new council because it never was, it wasn't implemented by the old council.
Right. And
That's it. Sorry.
It was unfortunate. I know Sharon Braverman had asked to be invited, and in fact she was, but for whatever reason, she was not in attendance that night. I know that initially she had responded that she would be there. So I don't know if you guys heard back from her or not, but it was supposed to be a working meeting. You know, what were your concerns from last time? Because obviously we had a lot of representation for folks with questions on that.
We tried contacting her before the meeting and during the meeting just to see if there was a miscommunication, and we heard nothing back. So,
yeah.
And she was told in advance about when the meeting
Yes,
would
yes,
be
I
held.
know. It was at the
I know,
meeting
you
that
know,
she
I
had
just
asked.
want to make
Yeah.
certain everybody knows it's on the board here.
Okay. All right, Leanne, it looks like you still have a question. You're on mute, Leanne. There you go.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I was having technical difficulties. I just want to clarify for my fellow board members, I have seen what is potentially the new language. And one of the things that had happened in the old iteration of this proposed ordinance was that if you served on this committee, you could not serve on any other board or commissions. There is specific language. It still states that, with the exception of the library. The library can put board members in those 2 positions that go on without forfeiting your membership on the board.
Thank you, Leanne. That was an important point. Andy.
Yeah, I just want to make clear that Diane and perhaps Leanne, with these changes, we're not endorsing this permanent building commission. I think we still prefer the building committee that we have. But if it is going to happen, the permanent commission is going to happen, then we want to see these improvements made. You're all aware that I've submitted pages of recommendations to improve the ordinance. It was horribly written initially, very rushed, not thought out, not clear in a lot of details. And it is a great idea. A permanent building committee or commission that's staffed by professionals who will be on it for 10, 12, 15 years is a fabulous idea, except for the fact that no one in Newington believes that can happen. And I think they've reduced the terms down to 4 years or 3 years, which means it's not permanent at all. Bottom line, you want to have a permanent commission staffed by people who are professional and who have continuity. And if you don't have those things, there's no sense doing this permanent commission at all. So hopefully this council, like the last one, will continue to see the flaws and realize that it's a wonderful hope, it's a wonderful dream, but given the difficulty with recruiting competent people and getting them to serve for lengthy periods of time, it really isn't practical. So Dave, I think we should be moving forward still with the building committee that's already formed, already active. And as we move forward with the library expansion and renovation project, that should be the group we should be dealing with.
Right. So Andy, the town they reached out to me saying, we know the library had concerns with the way the language was. We want to talk to you about what your concerns are and what happens from that end. There is no permanent building commission until such a time that may be passed by the town. Our current and I'll call it LARC, the Library Additions and Renovations Committee, because everything with Lucy Robbins Wells Library has such a long name. We've started to use abbreviations, but so LARC, if you will, is still in effect. I don't think that the town could move forward without getting a grasp or an understanding of what our concerns were. So I appreciate the fact that they reached out for that. And I tried to, bring what our concerns as a board were. And that was over the fact of, you can't have a permanent building commission and then say that there's nobody from the library board that can be on it. The town doesn't own the physical building or the grounds around it. However, because of the charter in the town is responsible for moving forward and doing renovations, referendums, and things like that. Realistically, I don't see a referendum once it's passed like that. Once it's passed, I don't see them handing the checkbook to the treasurer of the library board and saying, okay, your referendum passed, now go get your library built, right? There has to be some kind of a building commission, whether it's the existing committees as they're set up now or the way the town moves forward with committees. So that's what I was trying to do in that meeting, is take the opportunity that they presented to us and share with them with some, conversation that goes back and forth without a 3-minute limit clock or anything else like that going on. Discuss really what our issues were. And that's what happened at that meeting. I don't know where we will be 2 weeks from now, 6 months from now, but that's what happened at our meeting.
Diane,
Maureen, yes.
just for clarification, and I believe this has been stated, if this building committee comes to fruition, then all the other committees are null and void, correct?
That is my understanding of the intent of this permanent building commission. Go ahead, Fiona.
Is this it sounds like the building committee that's already working towards the renovations, et cetera. So my only, I remember reading and hearing about the permanent building commission. Again, I think it also does make sense, but to some extent, it probably would slow a lot down if there's multiple or more than one project going at once. Would we be able to put the library project sort of at the top of that? I just am thinking about it,
So Fiona, the reason we're smiling is because the Library Additions and Renovations Committee was started many years ago. The intent to push for a renovation, a shovel-ready product, you're talking like 2008. So this is why we're smiling. So it was going to be part of the town hall renovation. It was not going to be part of the town hall renovation. It was going to be, set up with some different organizations, and then it wasn't. So it's based on what advocacy we can bring forward for it and what the town has a temperament for, whether it be the town council or the residents of the town as that goes through. So a lot of what we try to do as board members is educate ourselves, educate the public, and help move forward from that end. This type of expansion is not going to be built without grants and referendums coming into play. When you get that kind of money on the table, you need to have some kind of building committee in place. Right now, we have the LARC committee, which was moving along and doing all of these things until we were told that they were going to concentrate on the town hall and not do the library at this time. That the inference, if not it wasn't a promise, but the inference was that the library would be next up. And then the Chafee School came up. And that is actively being worked on. So whether it's one commission or several separate commissions, it's rare that we have that much going on.
Thank you.
Yep.
This is Lisa. Lisa Jones, that is.
Thank you.
Maureen, I just had a question for you related to the 119 meeting. Is there any preparation that we need to support in order to be prepared at that meeting? Is there anything else that needs to be developed?
I do think we need to prepare for it. And can we do this offline?
Sure.
Because,
Yep.
it's a smaller group that will be meeting.
Okay.
And we
Got it.
just don't want to, bombard Lisa with, okay, here's what we need, make it better. We're going to have to be a little more specific. And I know all the work that you've done with communications and the brainstorming, there's a lot of good information there. So we could, call and do that. So we'll offline, I'll be in touch and we can perhaps have our own little brainstorming session with key points to present to Lisa.
Sure.
Is there any chance we can make that an afternoon meeting instead of an evening meeting?
If people are available. I, just for everybody's information, retired. So afternoons are doable for me.
It's just 'cause I have a conflict that night and I really do want to be part of it. Lisa Jones, can you make your afternoons work? I know that can be a challenge.
Yeah. Yep. Any day but Tuesday works. Yep.
So I can make afternoons work on Saturdays or Sundays if you plan ahead. I cannot make any Monday through Friday afternoons work ever.
We can throw. Why don't we
What's
we
the
can take this
earliest you
offline?
can meet, Diane? Can you 5:30? Or is that
I am
pushing it?
technically, I am still on the clock at 5:30.
Well, we'll
So-
discuss it. We're not going to
Right,
leave
we
you
can
out.
discuss
I
times and
promise.
dates if we need to move that, but just saying, I am not yet retired, nor am I the owner of a winning lottery ticket. So right now, my free afternoons, if they're scheduled ahead of time, are Saturdays and Sundays, because I also have personal commitments on those days.
Well,
So
if you had won the lottery, we wouldn't be having the meeting because you would have built a library for us. Right?
with my own building committee, right? So
That's right. There you go.
as that goes through.
Just
And
one
let's be
thing.
clear, that has to be larger than $1,000 winning lottery ticket.
You have a cornerstone. Fiona, just for your information, we started the library renovation committee back in, well, we've been discussing things since 2008 in earnest, but the committee was actually formed in 2015. And we hired this firm, Library Development Solutions, to work with us. So the document that we're discussing came from that relationship. So there is a document, it's our working document at the moment, and that's what we want to improve.
Right. And we've learned so much in the pandemic that we wouldn't have known 2.5 years ago, that all of that information and thought will be brought in to consideration again too.
Thank you.
If I could add, Diane,
Yes, go ahead, Dave.
if I could add, going back to Fiona's questions and concerns before, that this central committee or facilities committee is an addition or as a result of a plan that the council had put forward to have a not bipartisan organization look over all the buildings in town. And we have an 8-volume, 8,000-page thing for every single building in town, including the library, all the Board of Education buildings and so on. And in terms of repairs, needs and whatever, and the library is right there near the top of the list in terms of buildings. I think there were only some parks and facilities things that were above it that haven't been addressed. And some of the questions about historical homes we've managed to address without having to go out to referendum. So it is up there, and I think Diane can attest that, having talked to the mayor, that this is something that we, at least some of us on the board, consider to be a definite priority once other things fall in line. Because aside from the previous building committee that Maureen just alluded to, there is also this detailed report as to what is wrong, for a better word, with the library in terms of what is needed, and the other fills in additional plans. I'm glad Maureen mentioned it. Indeed, because of the COVID, so many more things need to be dealt with in terms of what is really needed and what might make a library even more of a vital part of the community, given what we've gone through the last 2 years. I just want to make certain that was clear and you knew some more detail. So it gets even more complicated than it may appear to be, but it's something we've been working on. And I've been with you guys off and on, looking out for the interest to see if we can get to a point to get this done. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, David, for the explanation. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on facility and site? I don't see any. I almost have everybody on my screen. Okay, then I am going to move on to fund development with Anna Eddy. Anna?
Thanks, Diane. So as for Fiona's information, so fund development started, in the early 2000s, and with the idea of having a structure within the board to accept donations. So we have a very robust fund development policy, and we tried to get our message out there, but I keep saying that for most part, we're never going to know if the message is working until we get a donation. So we just keep on plugging along, but I think that we're there. And the website has links on it to go online to make donations. And we started something 2 years ago where we insert flyers in 2 issues of the footnotes to remind people that the Legacy Society is there, because it's not just something that happens when somebody walks into their lawyer or to their accountant, to take care of their finances. It's something that we need to remind people on a regular basis that we're open 24/7 to receive their money, just like PBS is. So with that in mind, I want to schedule, just so Diane knows, I want to schedule a meeting of fund development to talk about a new donor option. Everything that I've been reading lately talks about sustaining donors. And what that means is that we're not so much looking for that big dollar donation as having, but more of having lots of donors who are giving smaller donations, $5 and $10, but they're doing it on a recurring basis, like every month. And now that we have an online tool available to us, we can actually focus on that role. So I want to talk a little bit more about that with the members of the Fund Development Committee, and which don't number very many. There's just 3 of us. So if anybody else is interested in focusing on that, just send me an email, let me know, and I'll be sure to include you. But some fund development is also because of the role that I play and my involvement with the chamber in the past. It's kind of morphed into donor-sponsor relations as well. And I mentioned earlier during the race meeting that we did very well with reaching out to our sponsors from last year's race. It was kind of difficult to reach out to them in November when it was like, it wasn't even 2 months after the previous race, and I was already asking them to sign up and hand over more money for the next race, but somehow it worked, and I will continue to work on those sponsors who need the month of January to figure out what they're doing for their community involvement in 2022. And then we also have the dining partners. This is a program that we started 3 years ago, and we collaborated with the Friends of the Library because we were both going out and reaching out to the different dining establishments to get donations, and we thought that they would get burnout. And somehow I came up with this idea, and Michelle Royer and I have been partnering on this for the last 2 years. And it's just so easy now because we walk in and we say, you willing to come back again? And, we're willing to promote you for the rest of the year if you give us 2 $25 gift cards. And they say, yep, sure. So it's made it so easy. And last year we had 31 dining partners, and this year this morning we had 40, but Michelle went to one of them and they were boarded up today. So we dropped down to, I know, it's crazy, huh? And she just talked to them last week. It's like, okay, I don't know why they didn't tell her last week. They were locking up their doors, but oh well. So we have 39 dining partners for this year, and so we're in a good place. And just so that you know, I mean, most of them give the $25 gift cards, but some of them we take a promise. So when we do get back to having programs, like a lot of the pizza places will donate large sheets of pizza that can be used, to feed the teens, to feed the kids, to, after an event. And in a lot of cases, the Friends use it when we can return back to Winterfest. They'll use a lot of the gift cards to build baskets for the Winterfest fundraiser that they have, but they haven't taken advantage of that so far. This past year, we doubled up on prizes for the race and went through all of those donations. So I'm glad the dining partner is working for us. Michelle makes it so much easier. I keep telling her that all the time because she's such a good-natured person. I'm just so thankful that she's willing to do that and be involved with this. And that's where we are.
Great. Anna, you have always been, I'll try to do that without an echo. You've always been an excellent fundraiser, whether it was for the race or for any of these other things, and truly appreciate your efforts and your ideas, even if they do come at 12:15 at night, or is that morning if we've clicked over. But she does have midnight madness
Midnight madness,
when her inspiration comes. But
I really like the idea of this, that what they call sustaining donors or recurring donors. It's got some good substance to it, and it's not all just looking for that one $250,000 donation. I mean, those are for us, those are the rarities. So we need lots of people willing to give us $5 or $10 a month.
Well, and the key has to be it needs to be easy to get, right? They need to easily give it to us, and we need to be able to easily
exactly. I just wish we had cute kittens to, or puppies to put in. We don't have those. Somehow I'm going to have to make books look cute. But I'm working on that concept too. Eventually, some idea will hit me. But we're doing.
Any questions for Anna? No? Okay. Going to try to move along because it is getting a little bit later. Nominations, Maureen?
No report.
No report at this time, which is typical. Communications, Lisa Jones.
I'll make it quick. Just from the communications perspective, working with Karen and the folks from the Friends on a Q&A that will help support questions as the expansion comes along. So what are potential questions that the public may ask? And do we all have a consolidated answer, something that we can all use? So it would be a prop, so to speak, for any of us here on the board, It would be a prop for the Friends. It would be a prop for the library staff. So that's under development right now and circulated around the communications folks and the Friends and Karen. And we had, because of the snow day last week, we didn't meet. So we'll go through and talk through that. As Anna mentioned earlier, a press release was being developed. Pauline has been working on that and support. One of the other things, the communications committee will support is the PR for the road race. So I want to make sure that I'm clear on what expectations are for and how we can best support you in the race. So, and I think that everyone has some great ideas. So how do we bring them all to fruition to help support the 25th? One of the things Chris has been talking about, I think, is swag, really lanyards and things, just starting with the board of directors. How do people know in the community that we are the board of directors? So looking to make sure that it's notable, and then other swag. So I took interest in the tablecloths and that sort of thing. So we'll continue to work on that. And then, as everyone's mentioned, the expansion support. So how do we best support representing communications outwardly so that the expansion is well documented and it's provided in a manner that's concise and easily digestible for the community, for us as board members and any other external entities that need to take a look at the information. So there's one last thing about the postage. If anyone knows that they have a communication that needs to go out that the library staff is involved in, we will need to take account for the postage. We'll have to have a line item to our own budget. So Leanne, I'm not sure how all that works, and maybe I can just send you a quick email on how we would need to do that. But if you have any ideas about whether you will be sending out from where you stand in the support you give the library, then if you could, I'd like to consolidate that if we have a projection for the year so that we know what it potentially may be, and then know that I know that the library staff requires a week to actually send the materials out, prepare it and send it, but we need also a 2-day approval period in that. So it's really more 9 or 10 days so that we can ensure that the materials are approved through all the appropriate channels, and then it's mailed out in the appropriate amount of time. The staff has the appropriate amount of time. So I just wanted to put that in for clarity. Leanne.
To clarify on the postage, I will say, particularly in the last 2 years, just the nature of COVID has required mailings to increase dramatically. We don't have a specific budgeted line item for postage. What happens now currently is that the library submits a report for reimbursement for the postage that they put out, and the board, I issue a check to reimburse the library against the town costs for our mailing costs. It certainly would be helpful from my perspective, because these are usually unexpected costs that I see come through because they weren't anticipated in whatever we budgeted for a particular program or whatever else. So certainly it would be appreciated to know how much we've got, so I know what we're looking at.
Good. Okay, will do. So if there are postage costs that are mailings that are anticipated, if you could get volumes to me, then we can probably figure out what the costs are for you. You don't have to figure out that cost part, but if we would want to understand the volume pages or the types of mailings so that we can get a cost on that. And Karen,
For example, the most recent race there was a lot more postage involved, and I think that was basically distribution of the last 2 races, actually. Distribution of prizes, things like that we had to do by mail versus in person.
Okay, and it just can be an estimate at this point. But, and Karen, you just hit me upside the head if I misspoke on anything.
No, you didn't. That's right. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. No.
That's okay. Thanks, Karen. That's it.
Good.
That's it for me.
Good. So I think it might have been under some new business. But I just want to circle back to communications because you mentioned that Christine had been working on name tags or some way of identifying us. Christine, did you want to share any cost information that you've gotten so far?
Hi. Well, if we do it, a lanyard and a created name tag that's personalized per person, the cost is around I guesstimated around $10 per, because the more you get, the cheaper it is. So I guesstimated as to how many I would have to get. And if we just did the lanyard and a generic tag where we could print the tags as needed, which you can do, it would be much cheaper. So the lanyard itself might be anywhere between $350 and $550, depending upon which one you get. And it's printed and it says Lucy Robbins Wells Board of Trustees, as does the name tag. So we would just have to decide. And I thought the lanyard was a good idea because the tag itself has a removable clip. So if you wanted to clip it on, you could do that. If you wanted to wear it with the lanyard, you can do that. I know some people don't want to pin it or clip it or whatever on their clothes. So the lanyard was kind of the best option. And in our meeting the other day, we really thought it would be a good idea for us to do that, especially at the race, because people really don't know who we are. I mean, I could be anybody sitting at the table. You know, some people might have a question about something and who do they ask? Or even people that are volunteers, like the t-shirts are generic, just like everybody else's. They don't say volunteer. And so some of those things we really need to discuss in our committee meeting, because I think you should really define who's playing which part. If you want to have a bigger picture out there, I think you really need to say, these are the volunteers that are working at the race, or these are the, Board of Trustees, these are these. It
So
really makes
right now,
clearer.
Christine, are we at a point, are you still doing some research or?
Yes, I'm gonna look at a couple more sites. I went to a few and they were all around the same price. So, but it was, of course, it was around Christmas time. So they were like having all these deals. So I'm sure now with those deals are gone, but I really,
Maybe
I
you
really
can have
got
something a little
the-
bit more formal for next month, and then we could vote on it. And I'm hoping that that gives enough lead time if we end up having name tags or what have you for the, certainly for the race and for anything else.
Right.
So the idea would be that it would be a lanyard, you put it over your head. The material on the lanyard would say Lucy Robbins Wells Library Board of Trustees. And then there's a clear pocket that we could put, whoever the trustee is that's on duty. So everybody could get one, or, we'd have them at the library or whatever, and we would have our names in them. And, I go off the board, somebody else comes on the board, we can still reuse the lanyards and go through from that end.
Right. Or, you get a supply of the lanyards and they would go to the next person. I don't know if you want to, pass off your lanyard. That's
Probably not.
No, right. So they aren't that
expensive. People are clear on that. We're looking at the pricing to see what happens. I personally think it's a good idea to be able to identify ourselves. And I'm saying that knowing that I hate it when I leave someplace and I've got the hello, my name is, and everybody starts calling you by your first name and you're like, I don't think I went to high school with you. But that's what happens. So it is nice to have those, especially as you say at the race, it can be so crazy. And even when we had some of the Hanel events, you know, if you were hustling and working, people kind of knew that you were there. They don't know if you're staff or a volunteer or a board member. So this is a nice way to do that. And I don't know if I should segue in at this point. I'm sorry, I can't remember the agenda if I had it down later under race committee and stuff, but Andy, you had done some research on skirts, and we had talked at the 5K meeting that we again are trying to emphasize the fact that this is a library board event. So if those of you who have been to the races before, we have all those refreshment tables that are set up, and they're just plain tables with just wonderful volunteers standing behind them. So we're trying to tie everything more into the library. So Andy, did you have anything that you wanted to share at this point about the skirts? Are you coming up with options or pricing, or do you need any second?
Let me jump in. Yes. So as you might recall, this past October was my first race when I was in attendance, and the standard principle of being able to see the forest for the trees, the new guy looks around and says, you know, this is a very professionally orchestrated event. But when you look around, what you see is all the boxes of stuff, everything that has to be carried in to be able to make this race happen. It all gets piled up underneath the tables and behind the tables, and it looks schlocky. So it struck me that we're trying to put on a first-class event, but we're looking like we're in the junk business. So my thought was that if we had table skirts that would basically hide the clutter for every table that we have there, that would not only improve the look, but would also be constant reminders that this is a library event. Now, I had asked to get some pricing, and it turns out I was talking to the wrong person, but eventually Lisa Maston came up with pricing from a vendor that the library has used in the past. And in speaking to a couple of people about how many tables the library has and how many times a year those tables are pulled out and used for things, not necessarily outside, but inside. It could be in the community room, could be upstairs. So we came up with the idea that there might be 20 tables that at the maximum would get used at once. And Lisa said she got a quote from a vendor they've used before. She didn't go out for bids or anything, of in the neighborhood of $150 to $165 a table skirt, which works out to $3,000 to $3,300. I would like to recommend that the board appropriate an amount not to exceed $4,000, and Lisa, working with Leanne, can get proper bids and make sure that, you know, we follow all purchasing protocols, and have these things made, because it might take a while to have them made. So they're ready to go for May, but not just for May, for also the 6 to 10 events a year over the next 20 years that we could expect that these skirts could be used. So it sounds like a lot of money, $4,000. Obviously, we try to do it for less, but I think the utilization of it would be more than would justify that expense.
See Anna's hand up. I'll have her ask any questions.
Yeah, so I don't know why we need to cover 20 tables when it's just a couple of times a year. I know that the Friends have a couple of tablecloths. They are monster tablecloths. I mean, I'm sure they are well worth what they were paid for. But I would be very concerned about putting those kinds of tablecloths on the table that you're going to be cutting fruit on. I mean, they're not going to be logical to use on food tables unless you're going to cover them with plastic wrap or buy tablecloths that are plastic tablecloths that are the same color to protect the cloth. I would like to know if there's another option besides $150 custom tablecloths.
No, these aren't tablecloths, Anna. So you're right. We have those enormous, ugly tablecloths. The skirts just wrap the front and the sides. And they're attached with clips.
Okay.
So I've been to enough expos and stuff, and the skirts with clips certainly look nice inside a building before anybody pulls on them, before, you know, if it's outside, there's wind going on. I've also seen some newer things, and I don't know the pricing on them at all, and they're almost like stretchy Lycra things that you put over the table and down by the legs, and that hangs over. So maybe I'm not opposed to the table skirts, and I use that term lightly. Maybe we want to know what some of the options are, thinking how washable are they, how easy are they to put on. You know, they kind of go on like a fitted mattress cover goes on, right? I don't know how hard or easy that is. That could be difficult depending on the size of the table and how much stretch or give is in there. So maybe we want to look at a couple of options. Maybe we want to refine the numbers depending on the cost. You know, maybe certainly the key prize table, the display tables, depending on how washable they are, how we deal with the food table, stuff like that. But I am in favor of the overall idea. I'm not sure that I know what the
I'll talk to
product-
Lisa about this other option, because that does actually sound easier if you can just stretch something over. I'm not quite sure how that works on a 3-sided thing, but and like you, I've been to all those conventions and everybody has them, and it always makes the whole thing look more professional. So let me talk to Lisa and see if there are some other options.
So
These vendors
my
around.
request for folks would be that we get a hold of the vendor that does this and not have Lisa be our go-between beyond handing off the contact.
Okay, well, I'll find out who the vendor is.
Yes, and if there's other vendors there. Anna?
So isn't there a promotions company in town somewhere over, I don't know, I don't even remember the name of it. I remember Val Ginn used to work there years ago. And they were a promotions company in town. I can't tell you the name right now, Andy, but.
No, they're on Holmes Road. John,
So see, I would
John
give
something,
him,
yeah.
John Michael.
I'll remember it. John Michael.
Michael.
There it is.
I
I
would give
just
him
pulled-
a call. Look, and
For
then on top
ideas
of it,
or search the web for, you know, table skirt looks.
Andy, several libraries are using these. We could just call another library where they get them too, but there's several different companies selling tablecloths that also do promos of posters and things like that. They have catalogs.
Okay,
Thank you. So maybe
Just
we'll
a
have,
thought, if we approach the promotion company in Newington, maybe we can press them into being a 25th race sponsor.
there you go. You're
By
thinking outside the box, Leanne. I like it.
By providing, you know, maybe they give us a discount or something.
gee, too bad it's not the 50th race.
Hey, while we're talking about the road race, this is Anna for Elizabeth's information. Andy had mentioned the idea of lining up the high school band or portions of the band to come and be at the start/finish line for the race. I think that's something that if we're interested in, we should reach out and see what we can line up. Ideally, what would be fun for the 25th anniversary is to have them at the start and finish line, but also have some entertainment at the first mile marker and the second mile marker. And that would just really perk it up, but just throwing it out
Okay,
there.
I'll play devil's advocate. The first mile marker and the other mile markers for runners that are running.
Yeah,
Get out of my way.
What do you mean, get out of your way? They're not in the road. They're on the side.
So I'm gonna slow down and look at them?
No, you're just gonna hear them as you run by.
Okay.
They take-
Cheerleaders?
Yeah, cheerleaders, actually. And then we promote the idea that we have the bands at these mile markers and encourage people to go there and cheer where the mile markers are.
Okay, so I don't want to stop the creativity, but I do want to do a little devil's advocate or whatever. So where is the mile marker? How many people are we going to have there? What's the safety on the route? I know as we go through. So I think this is something that would be great to talk to race committee on, to try to flesh that out. I like the idea of the beginning and the end of the race to have some of that going on.
Well, Diane, I actually have experience with this when the Connecticut DOT, when they opened up the CT Fast Track, they ran an unusual distance race from New Britain to Hartford along the guideway, the busway. And they asked each town along the way to kind of do something special. As it turns out, only Newington did, and we got the high school band out there, not everybody, but those students who wanted to participate. And these kids love to play. So if they get an opportunity and they get an audience, and the runners loved it. The runners loved it. They could hear the music as they were approaching. They ran by, they waved. And I believe our race course, you go around twice, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's just something that adds some energy and noise and excitement.
Yes, I'm not against the
Makes it
band.
a little distinctive.
Right, I'm not against the band idea. I think consideration has to be made for safety of where you're going to put them. So I myself don't know where the 1 mile and the 3 mile markers are and what the spacing is there, right? To have somebody set up on Mazzicoli Way or even, on Garfield where we start and end, we've pretty much taken over that part. And I would say that it would be safe there to have 5 people, 10 people plus cheerleaders or anything else at the 1 mile and the other mile markers. I would want to know where that is on the course and how safe that is for everybody involved. That was my point of before we go crazy with that, let's figure out what that actually means.
Right.
In terms of where we place them.
But we can start off with the idea of getting somebody at the start/finish line.
Yes, yes, we can.
Yes.
And I don't want to go into more detail now because this is a race committee discussion, not an overall board discussion. Okay, so I think it's a great idea and we should do that. I should probably cut down on reports earlier in the night as we go through this. So
but who's going to do it, Diane? That's my question. Who's gonna reach out to the high school?
Do we have a volunteer on this call right now? Again, so a race committee decision, maybe Neil will do it. He reaches out to the high school for the volunteers. So we can ask Neil if while he's doing that, if he can reach out.
I'm happy to do it if he doesn't want to, if he's already contacting them, that makes sense, but I'm happy to reach out to the high school. If that's.
Okay. And so let that be a lesson to you, unless you paid Lisa Jones off. If you miss a meeting, you'll get volunteered.
That's right.
Okay. So next on the agenda, we had under new business and we talked about the 5K. So that was the lanyards and the skirts and we don't know how far that will go. We do have some open board positions. So unfortunately, with the passing of Judy Eigelski, we now have a corporate position open. And I believe we still have a Republican town appointee position open. So I just remind folks of that. So if you know of anybody who is interested in being on the board, that you certainly talk to them, tell them, give them the down low on what's going on with the board, and certainly bring their names forward if they're at all interested. Okay. And so the old business was that. And I guess I would ask for public participation. Is there anyone else in the public on the call, James?
Nope, nobody else tonight.
Okay. Then from there, unless anyone else has a question or something they want to revisit, I would look for a move for adjournment.
I'll
Make a
move
motion.
that. No, I'll
Counselor
second it.
Nagel- Counselor Nagel has his hand raised. Oh, he did.
Pick somebody.
Hold on.
I
Dave,
still
did you
do.
have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I usually ask about the 150th anniversary,
Thank
and I
you.
actually have something to share with you.
Good. Please
Um,
do so.
My wife and Kathy Clark, who are on the committee, are in charge of a Newington townwide tag sailor event, SAILOR. You can cruise around Newington, to be held tentatively June 4th. No charge for the event, and it's townwide tag sales that can be outdoors at residents' homes, and condominium apartments can participate in permission with their board. So that's legal. The town requires the police department to be notified of where they're going to be, and they're going to try to do that. They're going to post items for sale on social media, hours of their sale and their address. There will be a town wide map of where these tag sales are going to be connected. They're going to go through it. Plus, they can also go through social media and hard copies. There will be, hopefully there will be signs for 150th with tag sailor, cruise around Newington. And there will be an event also of some sort through Parks and Rec, and hopefully with other organizations, which brings back to possibly, if the Friends wish to do selling books on that day, since there more than likely will be something in Parks and Recs, and there'll be tag sales in the area, that might be something they'd want to pick up on. So there's something additionally to deal with. The whole idea of a mirror ball, I don't know. That's, I think, kind of gone by the boards partly because of COVID. So that's an on and off then. But since I got this detailed list, I want to make certain I included it in your meeting so you know.
Thank you. And when is the tax sailor date?
By the way, it's June 4th, and they're also going to contact the Chamber of Commerce. So there's more coordination between everyone. June 4th is the date.
I think I saw Sheila write that down. Yeah, there's a smile. So yes. All right. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Okay.
Okay.
So now I'm going to ask for another motion for adjournment. And if you would please state your name when you make the motion, I would appreciate it. Make it easier for Elizabeth. Go ahead, Christine.
Christine Shushan, make a motion.
Anna Eddy seconds it.
So that motion was to adjourn tonight's meeting.
They're done.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Great. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time tonight. Again, just stress sending out the committee report so that we don't go into great detail here of the history and everything that's going on. It is always tempting to try to bring new folks into the loop. So Fiona, feel free always to ask questions when that goes through. But on a monthly basis, we do send, the committee chairs do send out the reports. We try to have them out well before Monday of the meeting, although sometimes they'll slip in on Monday, just so that you have a chance to read through and see what some of the other committees have been doing. So next month, we hope that you're absolutely official, and we'll put you on some committees and go through from that end. So again, everyone, thank you for the time tonight. I appreciate your time tonight and your efforts with all of your committee work. It's greatly appreciated.